Okay, so you'd start by subtracting 7 on both sides. That would give you 4x equals, what is negative 15 minus 7?
22.
That was nice in unison. That was beautiful. It's like we rehearsed it. And then divide both sides by 4. Negative 22 divided by 4 is?
Negative 5.5.
Okay, seriously. Like, this is a little creepy. Okay, the next one. 2/9 x plus 8 equals 3. Start this the same way. Subtract 8 on both sides, which would give you 2/9 x equals negative 5. How do you get rid of the 2/9 in front of the x? Multiply by the denominator, and then you'd have to divide by the numerator, or you can do that in one step by multiplying both sides by the reciprocal. On the left side, 9 times 2 is 18, 2 times 9 is 18, so you'd have 18 over 18, which is 1. So you would just have, why did you jump? You just have x. On the right side, think of this as negative 5 over 1. You do negative 5 times 9, which is negative 45, divided by 2 to get, is it negative 22.5? Okay, now when should you leave your answer as a fraction? When should you leave your answer as a decimal? I want you to not have to do a whole lot of work to get your answer in the correct form. If your answer is a nice, easy to write down decimal, a truncated, not truncated, if it's a terminating decimal, like something 0.5 or 0.25, I don't want you to round decimals. So if it looks like you'd have to round it, then I would prefer you write your answer as a fraction. But something like negative 22.5, why write that as a fraction when it's not like you have to round it? So if you don't have to round it, write it as a decimal. All right, the next one, have you all written this down already? Probably, that's all right. We need to start by distributing. So we would have 12x minus 20 equals positive 2x minus 16. What do we do with that negative in front of the quantity 5 minus x? It's like a negative 1, so we have to distribute it. That would make this negative 5 plus x. Okay, now we have to combine our like terms and finish solving. What is negative 16 minus 5? Negative 21. In this case, our answer happens to be a nice, easy to write fraction. We don't have to simplify the fraction, so why would you take the time to plug it into your calculator to get a decimal that you're probably going to have to round when you can just leave it as negative 1/9? So if it comes out nicely as a fraction that you don't have to simplify, go ahead and leave it as that fraction. Okay, it's time to see if I need to give props to your geometry teacher or not. How many of you remember how to find the measure of an exterior angle? What do you do? Just say it. Just go for it.
You put the 5x minus 4 multiplied by the 4x outside.
Multiply them or add them? Add them. Yep. So the exterior angle, 8x plus 8, equals the sum of the non-adjacent interior angles. Have you ever heard that phrase before? I'm assuming you have. The non-adjacent, so the angles inside that are not touching. So the 5x minus 4 and the 4x. Now, simplify, combine your like terms, and solve. Sorry, that plus was not very neat and tidy. Did you get x equals 12? Now, is that your answer? No, it's asking you to find the measure of the exterior angle. X is not the measure of the exterior angle. X is part of that expression. The exterior angle is 8x plus 8, so you need to take that 12 and plug it in. 8 times 12 plus 8, 104 degrees. Okay, time for some honesty. How many of you are looking at the next two problems and thinking, oh, I think I'm going to be sick. That's a lot of fractions. Some of you. Okay. For some reason, our society has made it completely okay to hate fractions. They are really not that bad. But theoretically, we could take this equation, 1/3 x plus 1/4 equals x minus 1/6. We could get common denominators and we could solve it dealing with fractions the whole time. But there's this thing I like to call strategic laziness. Are you all on board with strategic laziness? It's got the word lazy in it, right? So strategic laziness means, is there something we can do to make this problem easier so we don't have to deal with the fractions? We are going to get rid of all the fractions. Think about 3, 4, and 6. If you were going to try to get a common denominator, what number would you try to get all of those to be?
12.
12. So instead of getting common denominator, we are going to multiply this entire equation by 12. If you multiply every single term in an equation by the same number, the equation is still valid. So 12 times 1/3 x. 12 times 1/3 is the same as 12 divided by 3, which is 4. So we've got 4x. Move this up a little bit. 12 times 1/4, that's the same as 12 divided by 4, which is 3. Don't forget about this little x in here. You have to multiply the 12 to that x as well, so 12x and 2. Does that equation look easier to deal with than what we started with? Strategic laziness. I'm not okay with laziness, but I am okay with strategic laziness. So, finish solving this one. And since our original equation was a whole bunch of fractions, it's very likely that the answer is also going to be a fraction. Okay, the steps up above do say distribute if needed. So yes, we have to distribute. But really, truly, multiplying fractions is not very bad. In the grand scheme of things, multiplying fractions is probably the easiest thing. The key is you don't have to simplify. Normally you multiply fractions and then you have to simplify the fraction. Don't worry about simplifying because we're just going to get rid of the fractions. So again, strategic laziness, don't do more than you really have to do. So let's take 3/4 times 4/5. You could use your calculator to do this, but just multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators. 3 times 4 is 12. 4 times 5 is 20. So that term would be 12/20ths x. Now I realize we could simplify that fraction, but we don't really need to. The next one, 3/4 times -2. Think of that as -2 over 1. So 3 times -2 is -6, and then the 4 would go on the bottom. And we don't have to do anything to 11/20ths yet because that's not inside the parentheses. All right, what should we multiply the whole thing by? 20. So take a moment, do that, see if you can finish solving this equation on your own. Oops, not negative. Okay, the one that might be tricky is multiplying 20 times -6/4. 20 times -6 is -120. and then you divide it by that 4 to get the negative 30. Now, this fraction is already simplified, but what if you didn't know it was simplified? I'm assuming that you all know how to simplify fractions on your scientific calculators. If you don't, please see me, and I will gladly show you how to simplify fractions on your scientific calculator. If you have a graphing calculator, isn't this awesome? Got an emulator. By the way, this emulator, this is the Wabbit emulator. You can get this on your computer or on your tablet at home if you want, so that you have a graphing calculator at home. Or if you download it to your phone, you can have this be the face of your phone. So it is kind of cool. If you want to look into getting the graphing calculator emulator, talk to me and we'll see if we can figure out how to do it. But on this calculator, you would type in 41 divided by 12. You get this decimal. To see if this fraction will simplify, you click on your math button, and that's where you can change it back to a fraction. If that fraction was not simplified originally, this would simplify it. So if we had punched in like 82 over 24 and then changed it to the fraction, it would tell us the simplified version of 82 over 24. Okay, so that is simplified, and that's all.